call ourselves the Elite.
Better than you, and you know it.
If not us, who? And if not now, when?
We don't care about race or gender or sex or religion. If you're an elite athlete, we want you.
They want an alternative. They want something different to watch.
Change the world. We are going to change the whole universe!
They saw what wrestling was and realized what it could be.
All Elite Wrestling!
For the fourth time, it's Monday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for the next chapter of the only professional wrestling podcast that is changing the world every week. This is Seeing the Elite, a pissant podcast. I am your host, Bryce Reed. I am joined by my friend, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Jonathan Davis.
How's it going, bud? Nice intro.
Oh, man. I guess that's where we need to go first. But first, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, podcast services everywhere. Thank you for joining us on Seeing the Elite. We deliver the all elite news directly to you each and every week. And each and every week, we have sat here and said, you know, this next week,
We'll have a short show. It'll be cool. It'll be relaxing. And then it's like, God damn it. It's fine until like Wednesday. And then it's like, okay, we'll add that.
And
all right, we'll add that.
Once again, news-wise, this is our biggest week ever. But I think news-wise, this is 2 times what we did last week. But we're going to try
it really is.
to get through it in as little time as possible.
I mean, you know, you and I were talking about it after the show last week. It's like, you know, there could be worse problems to have. You know, when we started doing this, we expected of like 3 or 4 weeks before Double or Nothing, where we would just be sitting here and have like a 15-minute show because there's like, cool.
Yeah, just searching for shit to talk about. Go back and look at old shit or whatever. But it became very clear very quickly that
it's a good problem to have, man.
Yeah, hey, I'll take it because so much exciting stuff to talk about. And it wasn't even a big week for AEW in the way that it was a big week for WWE. Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite to check us out. And lastly, before we go any further, tinyurl.com/AEW pod gets you into our Discord community. Talk about professional wrestling. Talk about AEW with us there. That's tinyurl.com/AEW pod. But the place we got to start is important because maybe we might have talked about this last week, but due to scheduling, Jonathan and I recorded on Saturday morning. And as a result, we didn't get the beginning of our news cycle, which starts on Saturday night at the WWE Hall of Fame. And we're only going to touch on this briefly, mostly because I think it's hilarious. Everyone knows by now, as it will be referenced later in the episode as well, at the WWE Hall of Fame, and I'm paraphrasing this. I didn't write any of this down because that would mean I would have to actually watch the WWE Hall of Fame, and I ain't got the fucking time in my life for that shit, okay? But
yeah, and, you know, this year just was like a really meh year for the Hall of Fame.
It's always painful. This year was bound to be super painful.
Usually there's, you know, 1 or 2 people in there that I'm pretty like, okay, cool. I would like to hear them speak. I remember them from my childhood. I'm glad they're getting this honor, you know, quote honor.
Sure.
Fuck off.
Sure.
We're talking about this. But this year is like, yeah, I don't give a shit.
Fans of this show, fans of our previous show, Podcast Underground, will know that I pride myself on being heavily researched for this show, but even I couldn't bring myself to actually write down what was said here. Paraphrasing, though, Triple H said that Vincent Kennedy McMahon would love to hire all of the members of DX again just to fire them, which I think is funny coming from Triple H, who will never be fired, right? But, you know, hey.
It'd be fucking hilarious if he was.
This, of course, led Mr. Ass himself, to say he can't fire me in a rather cheeky sort of exclamation. Of course, the crowd picked up on this. They cheered heavily, started chanting AEW. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And then, of course, Triple H decided to take it a step, one would say, way too far, and say that Vincent Kennedy McMahon will, quote unquote, buy that pissant company just to fire you again. Of course.
Yeah, I didn't even hear about this. I thought you were talking about the Bret Hart thing.
Oh, no. Why would I talk about Bret Hart? He's not involved. Okay. Triple H says Vince will buy that pissant company just to fire you again because Mr. Ass had been fired not a year earlier for taking steroids, even though he wasn't a performance talent, which seems weird to me. But
yeah, at that point, I don't really give a shit. If you can take whatever you want to.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever, man. I guess that counts.
As long as your writing is fine and you're not just grunting constantly because roid rage, it's fine.
And of
take whatever
course,
you want.
Mr. Ass, who I will always call just Mr. Ass because if the man's name is Mr. Ass, that's what you call him, right? That's hilarious.
We are talking about Billy Gunn, right?
Yes. Who else would I be talking about?
Hey, man, I didn't watch a lot of the Attitude Era. I had better shit to watch.
Mr. Ass, Billy Gunn. He, of course, knows whose house he's in. And just smiles, Instead of going the obvious route, which would have been to say, what if he could fucking buy this company? Because he can't afford it.
Yeah. No.
Which Vince wouldn't have liked. Or if he'd said, is that before or after he's going to pour another $50 million into another football league that won't fucking work? Could have said any of those things. Didn't say any of those things.
Knew he had an engagement the next night.
Felt it best that maybe he'd said too much already and said, okay, we'll see. But anybody out there who's like, oh, that was a sick burn from Hunter, Vincent McMahon, on his best day, is a billionaire, technically.
It's a very, very small, not small. It's a large technicality, too.
Shahid Khan, on his worst day, has $7 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, and not to mention that the Khan family, they could buy and sell Vince.
So I love, and it really just kind of painted Hunter as kind of a doofus to me, that he doesn't understand that. You know what I mean? That he's not, I guess, in his house he can say what he wants, right? But the fact that he would be like, oh, Vince McMahon, it's like, yo, Vince McMahon ain't playing the same fucking game these dudes are playing, bro.
Yeah, see, all it would really take for the Khan family is like shit. They could sell. They probably wouldn't even have to, but they could sell a minor stake in the Jacksonville Jaguars and a minor stake in their Premier League team, and then buy WWE entirely. No, 100%.
The Khans could look Vince McMahon in the face and say, "I drink your milkshake." That's just how it is, dude.
I don't think people realize how much money Premier League football teams bring in.
Yeah, and fucking Shahid Khan is the fucking 150th most rich man in the world or some shit. The dude's...
Yeah, because we're just talking about two of his business ventures, right. Not what he actually made his money on.
Not to mention everything he owns under the table we don't fucking know about, right? You're not even in the same fucking league, dude.
Yeah, those are just the two things that he bought because he wanted to have fun. It's too much business. Let's buy a sports team. One in Europe and in the U.S.
I just found it so funny. And clearly, the Elite found it very funny, too, because Being the Elite episode 146, released just 2 days later, is entitled Pissant. And that's it, even though there's no mention of this in the episode whatsoever. But let's move into sort of our recap of that. It was kind of a down episode, but some important things were mentioned. And then, of course, the day after was the big reveal of some of the bigger parts of this episode. The episode starts with a fairly long segment from the lobby of the United Center, wherein Kenny attempts to convince the Bunks that that he knows shit about basketball, but it quickly becomes very clear that he does not. At one point,
so good, man.
Kenny points to a statue of Michael Jordan and says, "That's the guy who played with the Looney Tunes."
I feel like they were fine with this whole thing, and like even like the script that they had out, they were fine with it until you can tell he off the cuff brought up Space Jam, and then they just literally got pissed off.
Nick says he's done a lot more than be in Space Jam. I'm not sure that that's true, but okay.
I mean, he did win a lot of titles.
He sold a lot of shoes. Oh man.
A lot of Nike, man. A lot of underwear too.
He had a Hitler mustache on that one string of commercials. You remember that?
Yeah, he did. He tried to play baseball.
Yeah, that's true.
And golf.
He was the CM Punk of baseball.
No, Punk is actually better than that. Punk actually made it to the big leagues. Michael Jordan.
Punk got a buy into the big leagues. Matt
Doesn't
says, he says, can we go watch the game? You're embarrassing yourself. You're a stupid Canadian. You don't know about basketball. You suck. You only know about hockey, and hockey is the worst sport in the world. Now, Jonathan.
I took offense to that. Number 1, fuck off. Number 2, it's playoff hockey. It's the best time of the year. Number 3, fuck off.
I kind of feel like
basketball is absolute shit compared to hockey.
That was maybe the entire point behind the whole sketch, was just to make fun of hockey and piss people off. We then cut to the intro. Out of the intro, straight into a funny seg with MJF and Brandy by the pool. MJF confronts Brandy regarding Cody's unstable behavior from last week.
I didn't find it unstable at all.
MJF quickly learns that unstable behavior may be the MO around here, as Brandy says, "Oh, we call it like it is. It's fucking insane." And then she kisses him on the cheek. He then pushes Michael and his apple into the pool.
They are selling this apple thing, man.
Apple thing is so great. I love it, dude. My 3 favorite things from being the Elite right now: the apple, anything MJF is in, and fat shaming Adam Page is hilarious every time they come.
Okay, we'll get to that, but we do gotta talk about that.
Cut to SCU doing their shtick from Times Square. Which
I love how they do just the same thing every single week. It doesn't get old, and they're in some new random place that makes no sense at all for them to be there.
They couldn't even get through it without fans yelling at them because they were in New York, right?
Well, they were in fucking Times Square. It was also obvious. It was like, you guys, you need to move at least like a half block over, and you would have been fine.
We then cut to my scene of the week between Sammy Guevara and Cody. Might be my favorite BTE scene that I've seen, to be honest. Go ahead.
I was watching this episode, and I wasn't really paying attention because, like, after the hockey thing, I kind of really got disinterested, and then after this scene, I kind of got disinterested again because, But this right here, I completely stopped what I was doing because I was laughing so hard. Like, I had tears running down my face. I was laughing at just how, like, God mean he was getting it, and it was like, are you one of my coworkers? Because you're saying a lot of the things that I say on a daily basis. So have you been following me? And it's fine, but we should hang out.
I didn't transcribe this thing, but it's amazing. This idea that they've alluded to before, that Sammy Guevara acts really nice but comes off as a shitbag, while MJF acts like a shitbag and comes off as really nice, is amazing. I love the way that they've sort of molded this story. I think it's fantastic.
I hope that's the match that they're building to, because I want to watch it.
Cody calling him the shit of the earth was so great. Him being this sort of anti-MJF in every way, but everyone's perceptions of them are switched I fucking love it. And I love that Cody said that there was not a better judge of character in the business than him. And just the end where Sammy Guevara was like, "I'm sorry if there's been some misunderstanding." Cody was just like, "Fuck you."
It just made it so good because, like, especially with Sammy Guevara, he's just this young babyface kid, and he's all like, even in everything else I've seen him, he's always been just a real sweet and humble kid. And it's like, fuck you, you're a piece of
Right.
shit.
The only thing that anyone would really have heat with Sammy Guevara over is that he looks like Justin Bieber. Like he's a super handsome young man, you know, and that pisses a lot of people off. That doesn't make me feel good. Like I get pissed off when I see somebody and I'm like, yo, bro, like, come on, because they look so good, you know. That bothers me, but that's about it. That's all you can say about the guy.
Yeah, he's not like the typical wrestler who's like acts babyface in the ring and then kind of a shitbag out. Like, this kid is like legit humbled by everything that he has earned in his life, and it's.
I will
it's
say
funny,
they establish here that Cody's disdain is also somewhat tied to this growing tension between him and Chris Jericho, which I liked.
Yeah, I do too. I'm really hoping that the match, or if maybe not even for Double or Nothing, but really soon as we get the Cody versus Jericho match.
Yeah, it won't be for Double or Nothing because he's fighting Kenny, but soon they seem to be building towards it.
Maybe Fight for the Fallen, because we have nothing announced for that, which is getting odd that we have things announced for the event after that. But it's fine.
Are you sure CEO isn't slightly before? Check on that. Sammy Guevara was supposedly signed to AEW on Jericho's recommendation. So they've kind of tied it into this tension that he has with Jericho. We then cut to some footage from Rise Wrestling, some sort of angle in service of the Double or Nothing triple threat between Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and Kylie Ray. But I thought this was kind of the weakest of everything that went on the show. It was weird.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Fight for the Fallen is 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Okay.
We then cut to a sketch with Justin Roberts, the conceit of which is that Justin Roberts is just sitting around the office announcing whoever walks into the break room until Double or Nothing, which I feel like they spent too much time on the gag, but I think the gag is funny. I just don't know if the execution was right for it.
So I had two problems with this. One, the beginning of the gag when it was Brandy and Justin Roberts, you couldn't hear shit.
Sure.
So that was issue.
Audio
Second,
issues abound through this episode, by the way.
Yeah. So this one that bugged me, and it just felt really out of place and dumb because it was seemingly like the Double or Nothing thing. And then
I think it was the same. I think it was they filmed everything around the same time because everyone was in the same clothes.
That was like 5 minutes after.
Yeah.
But the part where he just introduced Cody, where Cody's coming in to get a cup of coffee, and he's like, nice, love that. That was gold, man.
That was great. I love that. We then cut to some clips from the Sci-Fi Wire interview that we mentioned a couple weeks back. The Bucks announced that they're putting the AAA titles on the line against the Lucha Bros in their match at Double or Nothing. This was obvious, and this interview happened weeks ago, but I guess it's fine to re-announce it here. It just wasn't like, I think it was supposed to play like it was some kind of revelation, but it wasn't if you're paying attention.
I think that they were really just doing this just on the off chance that people aren't watching.
Sure.
The Double or Nothing, Road to Double or Nothing, and it's really just, let's hedge our bets here. I think they could have taken it out because, I mean, this episode was 19 minutes, which is long for them.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It was fine.
Cut to a hilarious continuation of the Adam Page storyline. Adam sits down in the driver's seat of his car with his mail. He sorts through the bills and a new gym membership. That's 15, he says, as in it's the 15th gym membership he's subscribed to. I don't understand.
I don't know.
The more gym memberships,
weird,
the more fat you're going to burn, right?
Well, it was also just weird because it wasn't even a gym membership. It was literally just one of those, like, flyers you get in the mail. It's like, hey, come sign up for $1 for your first month. And like, that doesn't make you a member.
Last in the stack is a note with no envelope. It says, fat ass Page, you disgust me. You'll never be full gear ready eating like this, bastard. Beneath,
it was like just such broken grammar. I thought it was written by Ricky from the Trailer Park Boys.
Beneath the note is a disc with DVD video written on the data side. Page slides it into the CD player in the dashboard of his car, and a video plays on his phone. Okay.
Yeah, we're just moving completely past that because that's just not how technology works at all.
It was like the segment was written by an alien who doesn't understand how technology works.
Or a 12-year-old. So Paige, probably.
The video is hidden camera footage of Paige reaching into his cupboard, opening a small bag of Lay's potato chips, and taking one bite of a single chip before resealing the bag and hiding it in a paranoid fashion. Paige is frustrated, but with whom exactly we do not know. His frustration seems somewhat turned inward, but also confusion over who's been taping him.
Which is valid because you should be confused anytime you have a stalker.
I think he should be confused about how a CD with that was inserted upside down into his CD player played a DVD onto his phone. But okay.
Don't think about this, buddy. You can't think about these things.
We cut to a three-way chat with Kenny and the Bucks. Matt's audio is fucked up throughout.
Before
this
we
whole
get to that, they really need to lay off of the fat shaming and the mental illness aspects of this because it is funny. Yes, they are kind of starting to take it a little bit too far.
It's funny because he's not fat.
Yeah, and it's true, but it's like, okay, you have with things like this, you have to ride a fine line. You're kind of going a little bit too far.
I think as far as delivery, the person who does it the best is Cody. Like it's a joke when Cody says it, but
yeah.
When he's saying a pancake ass Page or whatever. Right?
If it's Cody, if it's like one of those guys, it's fine. It's like, because they're just busting balls. Right. But when you're starting to bring in you're getting notes from a stalker.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going a little far.
So Matt's audio through this whole thing is fucked up. I thought at first it was due to maybe ducking being on or something like that. That's ducking, not docking. That's a different thing. But
way different.
Ducking is a feature where you can set it so if other people in the phone call are talking, your audio will be muted so they can talk. Automatically, it'll do this.
Yeah, but that doesn't work with group FaceTime.
Sure. It doesn't work with group FaceTime. And there were several times when he was talking and nobody else was talking, his audio was still fucked. So
I know how they did this, and there was the way they did it, there's no way it was going to work.
Yeah.
So what they did is there's group FaceTime is a thing, but B, there's a feature on iPhones now where you can just do a full screen record.
Mm-hmm.
It works fine if you need to capture a quick 5-second video. It doesn't always work, but it's fine. Trying to do a recording and a group FaceTime session like that on an iPhone is difficult. The phone does not have the processing power to handle all of these things properly.
Right.
Because FaceTime is automatically purporting in the highest definition that it possibly can do. So that's a lot of, bandwidth and CPU power. Then you're also recording that. So you can do it fine on a computer. You cannot do it on a phone. Their phones are not powerful enough.
Sure. Thank you for that insight from the phone man himself.
I gotta do it. I gotta hit those points when I know things.
Kenny pitches his idea from last week, an entourage-style media event inspired by a YouTube ad that he saw. Matt and Nick say that the idea sounds dangerously close to the disastrous FYREFEST from last year, I believe, maybe the year before that. I don't know. I watched the documentary this morning because of this. In doing research for this episode, I watched this documentary. Woof! Oh man, they are right. It doesn't end well. But I had remembered this news story going down from when it came out with my background, and of course it was a big social media event when this happened. Matt and Nick urge Kenny to watch the documentary from beginning to end. Kenny says he's already blown a sizable budget on this new idea.
That was the best part. Is like, yeah, man, I spent all of my money from my last contract, my paycheck from Wrestle Kingdom on this.
Well, that, and he said,
Oh, dude, no.
we have a certain amount of money set aside for promotional efforts, and we haven't really done anything with it, so I spent all of it, which is great. Like, he just used a bunch of company money on an idea before they could shoot it down. Kenny
you could
particularly...
tell they were sitting there just like, why did we make him a vice president?
Yeah, Kenny particularly throughout the segment, his performance is great. He just seemed like he was out on a wire, man. Kenny closes
out on something.
Kenny closes out the segment by announcing that he'll drop the trailer tomorrow. I loved it. Kenny's really funny in the segment, and that's sort of the end of the episode. This last segment takes a lot longer of them sort of arguing back and forth with Matt having terrible audio throughout.
The beginning of this part, though, was great because they were like, Kenny CM Punk is not going to be the librarian. Because they were just like going like off, like, okay, we got to address this quickly.
As promised, moving on, at 12 p.m. Eastern the following day, Being the Elite's YouTube dropped a trailer for the perfectly named FYREFEST. The trailer is a hilarious fever dream mashup of model B-roll and video game sprites, with the note that, quote unquote, there will be some wrestling too. It's not a shot-for-shot remake of the Fyre Festival announcement video, but it's fucking close.
Yeah, it's real fucking close.
It's very clear that's what they're going for, and they actually usually like parodies like this. I'm like, oh geez, but they fucking nailed this video. It's so perfect. Like the FYREFEST announcement video is this sort of just like B-roll of models, and then it's advertising a festival, and you're like, wait, so are they advertising that it's going to be a festival where I hang out with 5 models? I don't understand. And so this very vague video that they put out, that's just a bunch of model B-roll with like text over it. Fantastic. They did a great job. What
was just funny about this whole thing is you and I both thought, it's like, oh, this is a really good joke. And we were talking, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched, but man, the joke that they're running with this is great. And then the next day they were like, actually matches announced. They're like, oh, so this is actually real. It's not horseshit.
Sure. The end of the video points to a URL, FYREFEST.com, which is owned by the CEO website, which is where this all ties into. This is really just sort of a promotional thing for this CEO wrestling event that they're doing.
Yeah, I was wondering when I pulled the notes up this morning, like, why the fuck is it so long? And then I realized, like, oh, the images, I get it now. That's fine.
Yeah. It's because of the imaging. Otherwise, it would only be 13 pages. The site advertises a number of VIP packages, all of which conspicuously sold out immediately. Because they were never on sale in the first place. It was.
Well, it bums me. I was like, just a couple of these. I'm like, I would pay for this. That sounds great. Let's do that.
I'm gonna read through these packages because they're hilarious, and we're gonna kind of talk about them as I get to the end as well. The first one is the Nightmare Helicopter Ride. The description says, take a wonderful tour of the FYREFEST Island in a private helicopter ride with Cody Rhodes.
I love how this one was just like, oh yeah, you get 3 cigars. just the 3.
The package includes horseback ride to the helicopter, 3-pack of American Rebel cigars,
just 3,
accommodates 2, in quotes, flights and hotel, and the bottom, gourmet cheese sandwich. Now, we move on to the second package, the Deadeye Cabana Hangout. Relax, swinging on a hammock in a cabana while enjoying the company of Adam Hangman Page as he polishes his boots. Some say that time passes very slowly in the cabana.
You just made this like super creepy, man. I was reading this one like, yeah, I'm out.
Package includes hashtag Full Gear Challenge training session, a pair of possessed cowboy boots, accommodates 2 flights and hotel, and a gourmet cheese sandwich.
So that begs the question of, who gets the cowboy boots? You or the other person? Because, you know, they're not going to give you 2 pairs of cowboy
Well,
boots.
you can
They didn't
each
say
wear
that.
one
And be half
possessed
possessed?
cowboy boot
Hey, that's a plan, man.
and match them up. You know what I mean? With another
Yeah,
side.
that way you keep your own half of your own thoughts, and you don't go totally ape shit crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully
Like
it's
Paige.
good on Hangman Page for finally getting rid of those boots, though. You know what I mean? He's been trying to do that forever. Brandy's Bikini Cove. This is another exclusive VIP package offered through FYREFEST.com. Hang out in a private grotto with the lovely ladies of All Elite Wrestling and get your tan on.
All right.
This package includes swimming lessons with Pharaoh. In case you need swimming lessons to know how to dog paddle. You get it?
Hey, man, you get to spend time with that gorgeous dog.
Sure. Bottle of special tanning lotion accommodates 2 flights and hotel and a gourmet cheese sandwich.
Down.
No, not for you?
Oh, I'm down for this. Let's do
okay.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
Jericho's lion taming. How about this
Pass.
one, huh?
Pass.
Learn how to tame exotic lions
Nope.
with Chris Jericho. Lions are guaranteed to submit to you. Then
I don't like that. Then
enjoy
no, we're not-
swimming with the lions that you've tamed.
No,
Oh
thank
man.
you.
Oh man, this package has some real fine amenities for you. A waterproof
true.
LED jacket, a clipboard, accommodates 2 flights and hotel, and of course, a gourmet cheese sandwich.
It's also saying something because, I mean, you know, even Jericho's LED jackets didn't actually work properly
Right.
throughout his run.
And this
so if
one's
they've-
waterproof.
That's saying something really important there, and I could use a waterproof LED jacket. I'll wear that every night to throw
He
down.
said on the show, very expensive jacket.
Yeah.
Then-
Clipboard. I don't give a fuck about a clipboard, but that jacket.
Let's move to the all-in package. Now, this is the only package that is still available if you're a real
because it's
high roller. Now, it says if you want the full experience of Fyter Fest, this is the package for you. You get everything above for a crisp, clean $3.5 billion.
They should have just literally called this the Tony Khan package.
Sure, because I want to, again, let the listeners at home, I want to remind them that even if Vince McMahon wanted to buy this package, he couldn't afford it.
Oh, that would have been better. Yeah, they should have just called this the VKM package.
There is a couple of more packages we should go over here. The Omega Private Gaming Session. Kenny Omega is always trying to hone his video game skills. Play Kenny in a game of your choice. No need to pick up after yourself because Kenny will clean up the competition.
So this was even better after that sham that we had at NXT TakeOver, where they had AJ come out and play WWE whatever version against some fan.
Sure.
And it was like, clearly you don't know what the fuck you're doing. But yeah.
Package includes a V-trigger knee to the face.
Sure.
I don't know why you would pay for that, but clearly it's sold out. So an MP3 of One Winged Angel accommodates 2 flights and hotel, and of course, a gourmet cheese sandwich.
I don't need that MP3. I already have a bunch of those. It's fine.
The final package, which is also sold out here, is the Michael Nakazawa Spa.
This was super creepy, dude.
Michael Nakazawa gives you all the works. Get a mani-pedi and then finish up with a full-body oil massage. This package includes used underwear, a bottle of special Nakazawa oil, accommodates 2 flights and hotel, and a gourmet cheese sandwich. Now, the cheese sandwich thing, I don't know if people get the cheese sandwich joke. You would have to be familiar with the story. The idea is they, to sort of put it in a few words, and you can go watch the documentary, Hulu and Netflix each have their own personal documentaries they made about this incident.
Honestly, watch them both. You will get a better. It's 2 sides of the same story, and it helps to understand everything by watching both of them.
Yeah, so the idea is that they sold this festival as an experience, right? For the weekend, you will get to live the way that a fabulously wealthy person lives for the low, low price of a fucking fortune. So it doesn't really make sense. But you'd live in a villa and you'd be fed fine sushi, catering, all this stuff. People get out there and they basically have none of this put together. They have like a shanty town of tents set up.
It was essentially like paying all this money for this gigantic festival and going to a third world country.
Right. But the thing that went viral on the internet from the festival was somebody posted a picture of their lunch, and it was 2 pieces of bread with a slice of with a Kraft single on it. And so the cheese sandwich became the big thing about it. So when they're talking about gourmet cheese sandwich, that's a wink and a nod towards the sort of the idea behind this festival. And these packages are as well, because when they first launched that website, a lot of the packages were like, oh, live in a like all of these very silly things. I actually think the helicopter ride one with Cody is a reference to what was it? Gathering of the Juggalos a few years ago. We're advertising.
More than likely. I mean, that's kind of the same thing as the Fire Festival.
We're advertising, like they were like, oh, we got all these bands. It was talking about all the bands in the commercial, and then it was like, and we've got helicopter rides. And it was like, what?
It was also just one of those things like when you're talking about Juggalos, like I don't want to think about a helicopter being involved because that's just no.
Also listed on the site, and we'll update people as more of these get announced, are 3 matches for the actual wrestling show that is actually happening. Of course, we already know about Michael Nakazawa versus Jabali. But
if nothing else, that's going to be super entertaining.
2 more matches announced this week. Cody versus Darby Allin. If you're not familiar with Darby Allin, he's
He's a Northeastern guy, right?
He's good. He's no, he's actually, I've seen him a lot up here. He works Limitless a lot, but I think he's from Seattle.
Interesting.
Pacific Northwest guy. And he just works a lot up here. And I don't know why. I think it's because he's got a contract with Evolve, or did for some time, doesn't now, I guess.
Okay.
And so he kind of works around in this circuit. The other match, which is fucking exciting, quite frankly, is Kenny and the Bucks versus Pac and the Lucha Brothers. Which will be a fucking wild match, man.
Someone is going to be injured after this match.
Pac, for the uninitiated, is the indie name of Adrian Neville, or Neville as he wrestled on WWE.
It's just going to be people flying everywhere.
It's going to be a wild match. I mean, like, Pac and Phoenix kind of work the same style. Pentagon's kind of off in his own place, although when he works with Phoenix, he does a little more high-flying stuff. And the Bucks have a bit of high flyer in them too. Kenny's kind of weird, but collection of talent here is great, and I think they're going to have a fucking outrageous match. I'd be surprised if that isn't the main event, because that's
if it's not the main event, I'm going to be offended, man. That's going to be such a badass match. I mean, it's going to be, even if they announce nothing else for this, I'm happy just seeing these 3.
There are also links to hype the event via Twitter and share the lifestyle square, quote unquote, which is again a reference to FYREFEST. And a note that tickets to the actual wrestling show, which again is actually happening, is the only part of this that is actually happening, will go on sale in May. All in all, though, this whole thing, I think they did a fucking excellent job. I laughed my ass off on fucking Tuesday morning or whenever this went up, man. I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was great. I know in the past with events like this, typically if you have a badge for the conference that you're attending, this is like an add-on. Like there's an anime festival, a convention in Atlanta, and there's some concerts and stuff. So it's like if you have a badge, the add-on is like $10, things like that. I'm sure this may be a little bit differently because they are targeting people who won't be going to CEO as well. But you're gonna have a good crowd on this. If you plan to go to this, I think your best bet is to get a CEO badge and go to the convention as well.
Oh, well, we did have some friends talk to us in Discord this week and say that if it's the same venue they ran last time, it's pretty small.
Yeah. So. I would also say if you're really interested in this, I think the best way to do this is going to be watching it on a stream because this is going to be a really small thing.
Yeah, hopefully Fight will carry it, but no, Fight won't probably carry it, but I mean, there's probably a stream of CEO that you can get a badge for, right? Or no?
Typically, you don't even have to pay for the CEO streams.
Oh, okay.
They're all on Twitch. But like we were talking about last week or a couple weeks ago, like this is a side event, but so I'm sure it may be on Twitch, it may be on Fight. It will be streamed. I don't think you're gonna see any AEW content that you're not gonna have access to.
I mean, you can see video from last year's event on YouTube now.
Yeah. So it's like one of those things where it's recorded, but it's not shown live kind of things. Mm-hmm. Then they post it up on YouTube. Very well could be that they take, they may do like packs and have multiple streams so you can still watch this. But again, I feel like with AEW, with everything they're building, you're not going to have an event that is AEW branded that is not going to have video available at some point.
Yeah. To
view for the fans because they're not doing house shows for this. This is everything that they do is for the brand.
Right. If you're gonna do it, why not fucking film it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Silly. I just want to make a quick note of this here. It's not super related to this podcast, but we did cover Lucha Underground forever.
And we also do talk about AAA as it pops up.
But I wanted to send some love to Vampiro, who announced this week that he has been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and for anybody that doesn't know, Vampiro was a very big part of Lucha Underground. He's also a big part of the wrestling community. He was in WCW for a very long time. Yeah, he's I don't know if it's still true. At one time he was the head booker for AAA. I think he still is. But yeah, early onset Alzheimer's, especially at his age, is quite terrifying. He's really not that much older than I am. He's early 50s maybe?
Yeah, I don't think he's hit 60 yet,
No, so just hearing that diagnosis is terrifying. I mean, he seemed in good spirits on Facebook, but
yeah,
he
was saying it's annoying because it's going to cut into his PlayStation time.
Yeah, that was odd, but yeah, definitely throwing out some love for him. I mean, Alzheimer's is a terrifying thing, no matter your age, and seeing that so young is kind of heartbreaking, especially because he's got a young child.
Yeah, man, that's fucking horrible. So as much as I'm the type of fella doesn't think thoughts and prayers are worth a goddamn thing in this world,
thoughts and prayers.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
And I wish that it didn't have to be this way. Well, I want to move on
to a lesson to you kids. Unprotected chair shots to the head are not a good idea.
I think I remember us reporting on a story of him falling down the stairs on Podcast Underground at one point.
Yeah.
And having to go to the hospital for that. So, yeah, man. Wrestling in Mexico for years and years.
And not even that, but also WCW was really not too safe.
Sure.
I mean, really, wrestling as a whole in the mid 80s and 90s was really just bad. It was not a safe thing to be in.
It's really unfortunate for him, though. I want to move on to some lighter fare here, though.
Let's do it.
StarCast 2 stream passes went up this week on the Fight app.
So before we even get into it, like you looked at the schedule for the days, I've looked at the schedule for the days. If you were just buying day passes, which ones would you buy?
Let's get to that when we're done talking about the days.
Oh, fine.
Because I can't remember what the fuck is happening on these days without reading it.
I don't think I would buy the 4-day pass. If the 4-day pass was actually a better deal.
Right. It's not.
It's
not.
just the
So
paying it one
let me
time
talk
instead
about
of
it.
4
Stream
times.
passes are available each day for $15. For all 4 days at $60, and specific events within days can be purchased for $15, which I don't understand because you might as well just fucking get a day pass at that point.
Yes, that is our advice. It's like if there's even one event on any day, buy the day pass.
Just buy the day pass. You're just going to get extra content. So...
and you can watch it later.
Yeah, you can. It says unlimited lifetime replays for all of this content, which is interesting. A lot of these, I think I might end up getting the 4-day pass because a lot of these are mildly interesting things that I would watch. It's not, I'm going to tell people right now, there is absolutely no world in which Jonathan and I, on that week, watch all 4 days of StarCast and Double or Nothing and talk about it. It's not going to happen. We might watch some events. We will definitely watch all of Double or Nothing, but there is a lot of fucking content here, man.
Which is, it's a great problem to have, but
Sure.
as their other side of it is like some of this stuff is just
Not related at all.
the other thing I will put out there is some of these events are actual podcasts that will be released for free.
Sure.
So keep that in mind.
We start off with day number 1. But before then, actually, I do want to say, if you look at it, 4 days at $15 a pop, if you add it all up, it's $60. If you buy all 4 days in a pack, it's $60. If they cut this down to 50, 55, then it would be obvious. It'd be like, okay. But
that was the thing. That like if you're gonna pay $60 both ways, there's no incentive there. If it was pay $60 and then you get like some, hey, cool, we'll send you a mini poster.
Right.
Okay, fine.
no,
that makes sense.
it's literally just that you have to make less separate transactions. That's the only benefit.
Which would make sense if there was like shipping involved.
Sure, it saves you. It probably saves you a little bit of money in tax. If you live in a state where the internet where a tax is levied on digital goods, which I do not believe that I do, but that doesn't mean that you do not, listener.
Especially state by state tax laws are getting in a weird place right now.
Yeah. But let's move on to the schedule. Day 1 starts with an event called 30 Years and 5 Stars Later, the Flair/Steamboat Trilogy. I will say a lot of these seemed built to a particular person's tastes, like
Mine.
or Conrad's, really.
It's 100%. The entire event is built towards people like Conrad that have been watching wrestling for 30 years.
Sure. It really seems to be all based in sort of a very specific area in terms of the guests that they got, what they're talking about. There are some things they're talking about here where I'm like, I don't know if I've even fucking seen that match, which shows my history knowledge.
I will say, like, if you are a wrestling fan who's just started wrestling in the past, like, 2 to 3 years, this is probably not the event for you.
Yeah, no, a lot of this is like super inside baseball stuff. So it's called 30 Years and 5 Stars Later, the Flair/Steamboat Trilogy, hosted by Jim Ross. Now, I can only imagine that both Flair and Steamboat will be present for this, sort of talking about the matches that they had, but who knows?
While we do that, I'm going to see if I can pull up StarCast to see who's been announced.
An evening with Cody and the Bucks follows that on day 1. Day 1 is actually pretty sparse. There's only these 2 events.
I think this is because this is like Thursday night.
Yeah, it starts late at night on the East Coast. An evening with Cody and the Bucks is hosted by Alex Marvez, who we talked about last week, the sports broadcaster who's coming over to work.
Flair is announced. And it's basically going to be JR, Ricky, and Flair talking about this.
Which, that'll be cool. I mean, I should go back and try to watch the matches they're talking about, I would think. And I don't know.
It's kind of difficult.
I can only handle so much of Ric Flair talking, but...
I would watch this, but for me personally, since this is all on the West Coast, a lot of these things are going to be things I watch later and not live because this probably won't happen until like 11 o'clock East Coast time.
No, that's not true. Because the West Coast, yeah, you're right, but I don't think it's happening that late for those things. I think it starts here at like 9, is what they said.
Okay, so the second one would be at 11.
Yeah, maybe the second one would be at 11. Yeah. Day 2 starts with Empty Arena Retrospective with Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk. Again, I'm not really familiar with this match that I'm talking about. I'm sure older fans are like, "Oh, what the fuck, really?" But
yeah, I don't even know if this is talking about a match. I think this may be talking about like early ECW, maybe.
I don't know, man.
I have no idea on this one. That one,
I imagine this is referring to an empty arena match, but
it's hard to really figure it out with Lawler because there was so many times when he actually did wrestle matches and times when he just called matches. And a lot of it blends together now.
This is, if I had to guess, from limited knowledge, I imagine this is an empty arena match that took place probably in Jerry Lawler's promotion in Memphis between him and Terry.
Has to be, yeah. Or like an ECW match that was an empty arena because like a snowstorm or some shit.
Yeah, maybe.
But even then, I don't think Lawler was already in WWE by the time ECW started.
I don't think Lawler would have worked. I think he worked ECW for one match, but it was like on a one-night stand.
And that was when WWE had already bought it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's probably some weird Memphis show or yeah. The next one, I'm down for the next one.
The next one is Sting Behind the Paint, hosted by Tony Schiavone. Schiavone? Really? It's just an E at the end that you... Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a WCW man myself.
Yeah, I am, motherfucker.
Tony Schiavone will be hosting Sting Behind the Paint. This will be interesting, him sort of telling stories. I'm sure there will be like a Q&A section and shit like that. We then move to a live recording of Nitro 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, which is to be a suck my own dick fest from Eric Bischoff, like it is every week on that show.
Yeah, I was interested in this until I realized that was his podcast and not just a small panel.
Retrospective about it. Yeah. It's not. It's his podcast is called 83 Weeks because it's the only thing significant he's ever done.
Pretty much. Then pass on that. Pass on the next thing too.
JR and the King. That's all that they have listed for this.
Oh, look at all the crowd. Look at all the titties in the crowd. Ooh.
The next one is called Arn, which I'm sure will be fascinating.
That's going to be very enlightening.
The first time the man's been on a live microphone outside of WWE in a very, very long time. And I'm sure he will have a lot to say. And that's almost worth the price of admission alone, ladies and gentlemen.
Fuck yeah. The Arn and the Double or Nothing press conference, that's worth it.
Yes, directly following it will be the Double or Nothing press conference and weigh-in, which I can only imagine will be free outside of this package. I wouldn't be surprised if that's on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, on all this shit. And you can just watch it on the Fight app if you want to. But it would be fairly foolish of them to take a press conference and put it behind a paywall. That would be silly. The final event of that evening will be the roast of To Be Announced. They haven't said yet. But it's not listed on the event, but if you look at the actual event schedule, that is when the roast is going to happen. Let's move to day 3. Day 3, again, they get sort of shorter and shorter. So
day 3, that would be the day that Double or Nothing actually does happen.
Right. Day 2 is really like the big fat day, and then day 3 and day 4 are kind of like the fall off days for a couple of interesting things that are happening, but mostly it's going to be people there for signings, and then they go over for Double or Nothing later in the evening. Day 3 starts with Behind the Themes with Jim Johnston. hosted by Sean Mooney, which should be interesting. It's like a completely different subject. What he does is fundamentally different than everybody here, but
he was the original theme song or intro theme for WWE and a lot of companies, right?
WWE mostly. And to say he was the original theme guy is like, yes and no. He composed a lot of themes for them, but a lot of themes were also sort of bought from stock theme companies and things like that.
Or the artists.
Sure. But even in the case of like certain things that we would be like Play the Game, right? We think of that as being a Motorhead song. Jim Johnston wrote that song in the style of Motorhead. Motorhead performed it. He was deeply involved with a lot of those songs. So it'll be interesting to hear him talk about it. But I won't say Jim Johnston's a legend in that thing. I just think a lot of wrestling fans are going to find that it's not really translatable to what they're used to hearing people talk about. What a musician does and what a wrestler does is different.
I think this would be like the most interesting one, like for you personally.
I mean, sure, but even what he does and what I do as a musician are very different.
Sure, it makes sense.
He's writing for a particular person, for a particular mood, as opposed to just sort of like trying to write the best thing that he can for himself, right? It's like listening to someone who does film scores or whatever. I am interested in this event, but it'll be interesting to see how he comes at it. I do know there's a lot of bitterness for him with his replacement by CFOs. People, have fallen on either side of that fence. I think CFOs write some very good themes, and I think Jim Johnston wrote some very good themes. But I feel
like there's a lot of people who are just on for that specifically, who are just like, it's dependent on the song itself, like anything else. Like, there's some CFOs songs I really like. I actually have a Spotify playlist, but at the same time, there's a mixture of Jim Johnston themes in there. It's just, these are the songs that like hit me like, man, I really like listening to this. I want to listen to the full thing, not the 15-second snippet as they walk down the aisle.
We then move into Sharpshooter, Bret Hart in his own words. That's going to be a great one. I'm excited about that. Go ahead.
That's going to be, I hope that there's not any Q&A on this one. And there's a very specific reason, because it's going to turn into, how did you feel when that guy tackled you at the Hall of Fame ceremony? And it was like, he was pissed off.
It's going to turn into Montreal was a work, right?
Oh my God.
X-Pac, 1, 2, 3 degrees of the Attitude Era follows that, which who gives a fuck?
I can't listen to X-Pac talk for more than 5 minutes.
I mean, X-Pac, whatever, man. But like, who gives a shit? Like, what is he going to tell us about the Attitude Era we don't already know 500 times over?
The other part of that is there's so much of the Attitude Era that things that happened that will never be spoken about.
Sure. Then the final event of the day is I Quit, quote unquote, with Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard. Which, okay. Like, again, this is one of those things that's like, it's so bespoke, so specific.
My dad would love that.
Sure.
Someone, that has been watching wrestling for 40-odd years, he would absolutely love to hear that. But for, like, you and I, like, okay.
Day 4, Crazy Like a Fox, Remembering Brian Pillman. This is listed on everything as Remembering Brian Pillman. Maybe that's like I don't know if that's a typo or a colloquialism, but
it's just
dumb.
It's Southern speaking.
We then move into a live Talk is Jericho, which should be...
So it's going to be a really good commercial.
I don't think he'll do usually if it's a live show, he'll do the live show and then he'll add the commercials in post.
Oh, so then it turns into a 3-hour podcast.
Right. Which, whatever. It should be interesting to see live, especially if he gets good guests.
That's for me also. That's really who it is who the guests on that one to determine if I'm going to listen to that.
Lita's panel on women's wrestling. They don't have a title for this one. She's just gonna do a panel on women's wrestling. It's cool. Cool.
Pass.
Okay, Lita. Something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. How the fuck is he allowed to do this show when he works at WWE? I don't understand. But okay. Apparently Vince has a soft spot for Pritchard. That's just he can do what he wants.
Either that or man, he did some hellacious negotiating when he wrote that contract.
Yeah, maybe his contract just says if it's a something to wrestle event, I can just fucking do it, and that's how it's gonna be. Hey,
I mean, it's entirely possible.
Power to him, dude.
I mean, it would be like us if we got signed by AEW. It's like, okay, the podcast is ours.
Right. Sure. Unless they start throwing around some real cash, then we're talking.
We will talk about anything that you boys want us to talk about.
The next event, an extreme rivalry, Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn. Again, it's like he picked out things that he wanted to hear them talk about, which is fine, but it's like it's so specific. Some of this shit. But I know before people get mad, I know there are definitely fans somewhere who are like, "Oh yes," about some of this shit. So
yeah, but like I don't even remember that. And the other part of that is like, Rob Van Dam is going to be so fucking stoned.
I'm surprised there's no DDP event announced for any of this, but hey.
I think because DDP is probably doing that separately on his website. Oh, okay. Because it would be a DDPY session, not something that would work well on the Fight Network.
Yeah. I mean, none of this really works well on the Fight app, but okay.
Well, I meant these things do tie to wrestling compared to a seminar of we're doing a live intro to DDPY
sure.
with DDP, which is cool. I would be interested in that. I know some of our friends would be interested in that because they could just, take the class, quote unquote, along with it. But it's also like, just buy that on ddpy.com.
Yeah, just get it on his shit.
Yeah.
House of Hardcore, an extreme reunion with Tommy Dreamer closes out day 4. This is probably a panel with ECW stars. If that, really spins your dreidel or whatever.
Your brother won't listen to that. There's probably be too much blood involved.
Dude, they're probably going to bleed during the talk just to drive that point home, dude. When you only got one trick, you got to do it well,
Start reminiscing about a match and just see his head explode. Red face because that blood vein just popped through the skin. It'd be great.
So I don't know. It's cool, man. It's going to depend on where my finances are, what I buy. But I guess if I was going to buy one day...
I was looking at... Initially, I was going to get day 1 and day 2.
Yeah.
Until I realized that the Nitro thing was a retrospective and not, or is a podcast, not a retrospective.
Yeah.
I still probably get day 1 and day 2. But
I mean, I'm interested in all of them, but I would say the ones for me that are interesting are 2 and 3 or 4. I mean, I think 4 probably has more stuff I would be interested in. The only thing that really I'm like, yeah, on day 3 is the Bret Hart thing, honestly. And the themes, probably if I had to do 2 and 3, I would do.
That's fair.
2 and 3.
I'm very interested in the 30 years and 5 stars later. That's going to be really, really interesting to me. The thing that other than that, like the evening with Cody and the Bucks is something I think would be very relevant to our show.
Yeah, I'll probably just end up getting the 4 days.
Yeah, you could probably split it too.
Yeah, maybe we'll get the 4 days and then share credentials or some shit.
You should probably cut that out.
You didn't hear it from us, Fight. The road to Double or Nothing.
I want to go ahead and say before we even start talking about this that first off, fuck you, because I know you're going to give me some shit about this, but I am so fucking down for this.
Dude,
and I hope he has the full gear.
I know. This happened, and I know that you fucking popped for Glacier.
Goddamn right I did. I hope he has the full goddamn samurai gear and everything, and I'm down for it. I want the entrance. I want the gear.
An
I
old
want
WCW
everything.
boy done proud, man. I know. I could hear you freaking out in
Fucker
Georgia.
still looks good,
Across
too.
the country, I could hear you freaking out.
Let's do it. I want him to win.
The episode starts with Cody talking to a figure off camera about the Battle Royal. The figure is revealed to be Glacier. Glacier, of course, of WCW fame, a beloved figure of Thursday Night Thunder. He will be joining the Battle Royal at Double or Nothing. Glacier, go ahead.
I knew Glacier was. He's been involved in AEW since inception as well.
Oh, okay.
He's been one of the, I think he's been working a lot with Christopher Daniels on booking and stuff, but that they're giving him, it's a fucking battle royale. Who gives a shit who's in it? Mm-hmm. Might as well let these guys have some fun. And it's Glacier, so fuck off.
I agree. It's Glacier, and there are so many, it's Cody's the figurehead for this thing, right? And he has embraced the WCW connection because he's got it, so use it for what it's good for, not what it's bad for.
And it's like I said, it's not a singles match where he's taking a spot from a guy.
Right.
It's the intro
it's
battle
the Battle
royale.
It's fucking silly.
Yeah. Let these guys have some fun in the ring. And like Glacier spoke earlier, is that you can't just do the old style battle royale where you just stand in the corner and grab some guy's leg for 10 minutes.
Glacier did say that, but I watched the battle royale at All In, and I didn't think it was some spectacular re-envisioning of a battle royale by any means.
It was still better than the fucking Andre the Giant battle royale.
Sure. I thought it was a very well done battle royale, but it didn't change my idea about what a battle royale could be. It wasn't Aztec Warfare or anything like that,
Agreed. Okay, Aztec Warfare is a high bar, though.
Glacier also recommends Pillman Jr. for the Battle Royale, and Cody agrees. He then asks for Glacier's advice on the Jericho situation, which I love
that they're building this shit, man.
And I love that this series, The Road to Double or Nothing, of which we are on episode 11 now, fades in and out of kayfabe very seamlessly, right? In one moment they're talking about like, oh, we're booking this guy, and then in the next moment they're talking about this invented situation with Jericho that's happening.
It's something that other heads of companies should really take notice about. That you can have a documentary style, web series that also has kayfabe in it.
Yeah.
It's quite shocking, to be honest. Shocking indeed. I love the whole Jericho thing, and I really hope, I know there will be. There's going to be some kind of payoff with this. Yeah. I wish they'd play more of the voicemails because they're so fucking funny.
The voicemail was so fucking funny when they played that, man. I'm still laughing about that. Glacier suggests that a talk in person would serve a greater effect than, say, a fine to somebody like Chris Jericho, which I think is great. From a writing perspective, very smart. Cody agrees as we fade to the next segment. The next segment is a hype video for Kylie Ray, who is competing in the three-way dance at Double or Nothing. I know very little about her. She seems like kind of a Bayley-type cute gimmick girl. Her speech is mostly about her excitement over how AEW is changing the business. And I wanted to take a moment here to talk about how totally fucking right she is about this, man. It really can't be overstated.
She is the girl they signed in, like, the first or second episode of The Road to Double or Nothing? That they
yeah, maybe. Yeah. The Elite talk often about changing the world, right?
In the first couple of weeks, we thought, like, okay, that's the gimmick.
Sure.
And it's fine. It makes sense. But
it's already fucking happened. Like,
Yeah.
they don't, like, mission accomplished, man, simply by providing a choice. Like, we've already been seeing the ripples. The Revival having their thing, right? They held out for better contracts. Dean Ambrose now fucking gone, which is something that whether or not
Technically
people. Okay.
End of the month, then he's gone. But yes, he
Okay.
is technically. But yeah, he has to ride out the end of April.
Yeah,
yeah,
Gallows and Anderson now talking about they're going to leave. Now we're hearing that Sasha Banks and Bailey are going to go, or have already said that they want to go. You know.
So, okay, Revival, Ambrose, and Gallows and Anderson, I believe them because they are unhappy and have reason to be unhappy. Sasha and Bailey also have reason to be unhappy, 100% justified. I really question those two because it feels too much like a work. But I agree that they have every reason to be pissed the fuck off.
I agree. And all that aside, the point is that the jig is up for them. AEW has empowered the artists in a really wonderful way. They no longer have to put up with being misused and mistreated because there's only one label in the business, right? Like, I think that's fucking wonderful that they can be like, hey, you know, unlike when John Cena would be like, I'll leave your show and walk on somebody else's show, brother, talking about TNA.
It was horseshit.
Yeah, John Cena was never going to leave and go to fucking TNA. None of these people were, because there was no future in that. The fact that there is a future in leaving and going elsewhere now is a fucking big deal.
Yeah, it really is. One of the streamers that I watch on Twitch a lot, he was talking about a little bit of like a recap of WrestleMania on Monday, and it was pre-Raw, so somebody asked him in chat, like, hey, who do you think is going to get called up on Raw, because that's typical night after Raw or right after Mania. And he was like, man, honestly, I hope no one does, because we already have way too many people on the main roster who don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
They don't need to pull anybody else up. They need to utilize the people that they've got. And even with the injuries and stuff that they have right now, they still have way too many fucking people on the roster that are sitting there doing dick.
You know, and if you're someone like Nakamura who's treating it like a live-in retirement, then it's perfect.
Yeah, fucking Nakamura and AJ. This is their ride into the sunset.
Yeah, Nakamura came in. He had a match with Sami Zayn that was unbelievable to prove that he could do it, and then he fucking kicked back and wrestled good enough matches for the rest of his career, man. And more power to him if that's what he wants to do.
He's had a very long and illustrious career, and he should get a paycheck at the end and have fun with it. I fully support him. I wish he would do some better matches, but at the same time, enjoy this shit while you can. You have a limited ride. Might as well make the fucking money off of it.
But let's not get sidetracked further.
The ones who should be leaving, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
I agree. I mean, when they were talking, the Elite was talking at C2E2, they said they wish they could have Kevin Owens. And I agree. Oh, my God, would he be wonderful for the company, dude.
That was the thing about Mania Weekend that was kind of depressing to me, is like I saw so many guys that I wanted in AEW, like Aleister Black. I mean, Ricochet, that'll never happen, but Ricochet.
Right.
And then, just watching Mania, and then there's no Kevin Owens, there's no Sami Zayn. They're both cleared.
The sad thing is I don't know that Kevin will ever go either. I mean, he's close friends with all those guys, but I think being a WWE guy means too much to his family and his kids. I don't think he's going to go. Sadly, I think he'd do way better in AEW. He'd have to work way less, and he could be home at Christmas time. We'll see. That would be the thing. That would be the thing that I would think would bring him over. Would be the fact that they would be more respectful of his time with his family.
Absolutely, yeah. They would be more that and just it would just be flat out like you don't have to work house shows, bud.
Yeah, yeah. Kylie Ray continues. She says she knows that she's the underdog in the upcoming match, but then says that will make her work harder. I don't really know. She doesn't really seem to have anything here that made me believe that she has a chance of beating either of these women, let alone both. Basically, her defense was, you know, like, I'm not a great fighter, but I've got a great attitude. But, like, that doesn't win matches. So I don't really know what her point was here.
I feel like her, and this is something that we talk about a lot with triple threat matches, is that we have two people that we want to keep looking strong, so they need they throw a third in there to eat the pin. Sure. I feel like she's going to be eating a pin.
I can see where her appeal is. She's like a Bailey type character. She's probably great for little girls who look at her and go, "Oh my God, it's a surrogate for me," you know. But I don't know. She's got this whole other thing going on, and I don't know that it works against what else is going on in the match, which we'll talk about later. There's a fairly long fluff piece about Cody's new children's book. I'm not going to go over it. You can find out the information about that there.
It's on Instagram for anybody that's interested. They did some posts about it. I think you can pre-order it now. If not, you can definitely pick it up at Double or Nothing.
We then cut to a promo for Nyla Rose. I have never seen Nyla Rose before, with the exception of the press conference. I am all in on Nyla Rose, man.
This is how Nia Jax should be portrayed.
Sure.
Absolutely, 100%. This chick scares me.
I love a bunch of things about her. She's an Oneida tribe native, and a transgender woman. She was assigned male at birth. And I fucking love that I had to find this out from Wikipedia, and they didn't say a fucking word about it in her video, man.
Because it's not important.
Right. I
absolutely love that too. It's like, cool. She's a women's wrestler. We're talking about that. The other thing, it's great. It's a wonderful thing.
Sure.
Absolutely. Let's not drive focus on this and drive it into the ground.
They didn't say a word to it, to the point where when I looked it up on Wikipedia, I was like, oh, okay.
Awesome.
That's great. That's fucking awesome, man. And, you know, I love that she's representing two people who really need good representation, you know, and I feel like her native representation is very tastefully done. You know, she's not getting out there in a headdress.
The Mickey James route.
Right, sure. She's got, you know, little feathers, little accents to her costume and her tattooing that, like, you know, show and respect her heritage, because you can tell that's very important to her. But it's not, her name isn't Wahoo McDaniel, right? Like, she's fucking, or Chief J Strongbow, right? Like, she's out there as Nyla Rose, as a fucking badass woman of native heritage, man. I think it's awesome. And the fact that she can be that for both people of native descent and also for transgender women that's fucking awesome, dude. That's fantastic.
She scares the shit out of me, man. Especially her like promo gimmick line is, she breaks bitches and takes riches. Okay, yes, ma'am. Yes, you do.
I fucking dig it, man. I love that to death. She threw that line out there. I was like, okay,
sold.
Man.
Need a shirt.
Fucking does it, dude. The episode finishes with kind of a silly hype video for Darby Allin.
Dude, this was so bad because this is 100% a Limitless video, and they didn't even do anything about it. It says Limitless in the background.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
That's
the
so
part
funny.
At the end, like when he's lighting the fire, it says Limitless on the ground, and they just like cut over that to AEW, and I'm like,
oh, poor Randy. I didn't even see that. Limitless, for people that don't know, is my hometown-ish promotion. Like, the closest indie promotion to me is Limitless Wrestling. So that's heartbreaking. I mean, maybe Randy got paid for it. I don't know.
I'm sure he did, but it's also like, you guys just threw this together last minute.
Darby Allin has signed a deal with AEW. He's a great worker, and I think he's a good signing. I've seen him a number of times at Limitless. He's used all the time there. In some great matches. He most recently he did a match with Teddy Hart that was great. It was a great match. I think his sort of emo Eminem gimmick sucks. It often comes off as him trying way too hard. Like, he just feels like a fucking Hot Topic poser, right? Like the 14-year-old's idea of a cool guy. But at least this video nails the gimmick, you know? Like, he pulls up in the car, spray paints Relentless on it, and then, like, does some skateboard tricks over it, and then, you know, lights a match and throws it on the ground and spells AEW, right? Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, that's where that quick cut came in. But I mean, I'm fine with it. He looks like, I've never heard of him before. He looks like a cool guy. He's probably got some fun, interesting movesets.
He's a high flyer type character.
I think he'll do great against Cody.
Yeah. And whatever they use him for after that.
Yeah.
But that is his first announced match, is that match at FYREFEST. Let's, as we're coming up at an hour and 20 minutes, we might actually stay under an hour and a half here, but I think we'll be over because we've got some bombshell final news, which of course was all over Reddit and the internet news channels this week. And that's that various sources, mostly Fight Oracle on Twitter, have reported a number of details regarding AEW's forthcoming TV deal. First,
dude, I'm going to be honest. This is really, really surprising to me.
Let me lay the facts out, and then I would love to hear how you're feeling about it, especially given how close you are to some of these companies in some way, right? The show is set to be presented at Upfronts. For those that don't know, Upfronts is a television event where networks shop new content to advertisers. So they say, hey, in the fall, we're going to be putting up this brand new show. Here's a preview of it. Buy some fucking ad space now because we're not necessarily going to have it when we go live.
Yeah, it's basically where the fall schedule is released for all the networks.
It's a big party, and they sell like 80% of their ad space at them, usually.
It's a very big deal in the entertainment industry.
So AEW's show is due to be presented at Upfronts next month by none other than Turner Sports. This means that the television home of AEW will likely be either TBS Superstation, or just TBS now, right? They're not Superstation anymore. Or TNT in October. True TV is also possible, but this was shot down to some degree by JR last week. Which means our two really front-runner possibilities with the outside possibility of True TV is TBS or TNT.
What's more than likely going to be is you could probably have like reruns on True TV.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah,
that's kind of what they do.
Yeah,
Cops or whatever they run on there, right?
Impractical Jokers.
Right.
Okay, so this is very, very surprising to me. I work for AT&T. We just bought Time Warner. Given we do not have a lot of interactions with Warner, there's with all the lawsuits and things that happened, there was a very, very big firewall in place, and it was said in multiple places, don't talk to Time Warner people. We can't do it. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. If you need to speak with them, there's a representative in place. That Cody, so that's surprising to me that any part of Warner would be going back to wrestling. It was very stigmatized for a very, very long time.
Sure.
Of the only reason that WCW was on Turner is because Ted Turner wanted to have a wrestling promotion, and he owned the company.
Right.
He was ousted from the company many, many years ago in a lot of very volatile takeovers. Mm-hmm. TBS and TNT are very big nostalgia pieces for people that watched wrestling in the 90s. That is WCW territory.
Right.
So this is a big fucking deal. There's a lot of things that are very big about this. It's basic cable. Everybody has access to this. For the longest time, TBS wasn't even on basic cable. It was a local channel. Everybody had it.
Yeah.
And then TNT was the cable channel. So that's a big goddamn deal. It's very, very surprising to me that Turner would be interested in this. Just of things I've heard, through the grapevine, through, internal emails of how they're wanting to position Turner. So it's very, very interesting. If this is all true, man, this is the biggest fuck you to Vince that there ever could be.
Dude, it's super huge because TBS and TNT
are synonymous with WCW wrestling.
Well, there's that, but I think more importantly, they're just as basic cable as USA is.
Absolutely. The thing that's
not
really
as much
going
as
to
Fox, but
well, I mean, I wouldn't even count Fox as basic cable anymore. That's
right.
Just,
that's a local channel. Basically.
Yeah. So the thing that's could really harm this and could really help this is TBS and TNT. Those are primarily networks. For TBS is the MLB, TNT is NBA.
Sure.
They have weekly nights where it's just baseball night and basketball night.
Right.
So if they say I think Tuesday nights is TNT's NBA night. If they follow through on this Tuesday night thing, AEW is going to get fucked.
Let me finish it out.
Hard.
Okay, let me just finish it out. Although I will say an important point that you brought up is that WCW was on the network because Ted Turner wanted to own a wrestling company. Well, now AEW is on the network because Tony Khan wants to own a wrestling company.
Fair enough, yeah.
What I mean? And so, when Moneybags comes in and says, hey, put this on the fucking table, sometimes it just gets on the table.
Absolutely. But Tony Khan don't have NBA money.
TNT and TBS is great if you're a wrestling fan who doesn't have cable because you can get these in the cheapest tier on a lot of internet cable, quote unquote cable providers. I know it's on the $15 tier for Sling. I know that it's on the cheap tier for YouTube TV and PlayStation View. So if you're trying to get in that way.
DTV now as well. It's on the cheap tiers of everything. I mean, given all of these services are getting more expensive, especially YouTube TV and DirecTV now, but there's alternatives like Sling where you can pay $15 a month and get this. Yeah.
And you'd get USA for that matter. So that's a great package for you if you like good wrestling and shitty wrestling. Sources also reported that the show is likely to air on Tuesday nights. AEW did earlier this year trademark the name Tuesday Night Dynamite, which is so
on
WCW.
The nose. It's so on
great.
The nose, man.
It's just like Thursday Night Thunder, right?
Yeah.
But it's Tuesday Night Dynamite. And I don't think it's a terrible name. I don't know why you wouldn't just call it AEW.
Well, it's more on the nose of Monday Night Nitro.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's fucking true, too. But there was no way of knowing if this name will be used or if it was just trademarked. When you're a company, sometimes you just trademark shit, just in case you want to use it.
And that was something we talked about last week because there was a lot of old pay-per-view names that AEW and Cody just trademarked. I think he had a list of, it was a 3-page list of old pay-per-view names that he trademarked.
Yeah, he came out on Twitter and said, "Hey guys, it's not AEW shit. It's just stuff that my dad made up that Vince wasn't trademarking anymore. So I took it because it's my fucking dad's and I want it."
If only he could have his name.
Yeah, sometimes supposedly he can. He chooses to go by Cody as a "I don't fucking need you" thing, which is great.
That's fine. Because I imagine a lot of people are going to attribute the Rhodes part to WWE, not his dad now.
Right. Even though it's his dad's.
Yeah.
Additionally, it's been said that the show will be for 2 hours weekly. Fight Oracle also, in a last piece of news, this is the real grain of salt shit, stated that
I would be very hesitant on that.
He thinks Turner's relationship with HBO may possibly lead to AEW's PPV being bought and presented on the service. This seems like a reach to me, but I'd love to see it.
Okay, so number one, Turner has a relationship with HBO because it's all owned by the same parent company.
Yes.
They are not buddy-buddy Like they're separate entities under the same umbrella. That's something that people need to keep. Yes, HBO does do a lot of pay-per-view things like this for especially boxing.
Right.
I don't think it doesn't matter what fucking realm it is. In the grand scheme of things, wrestling and Turner are still second tier to HBO. HBO is the money cow for Warner Media. There ain't no way they're going to get blocks of time on fucking HBO.
I forget that they're also a TV channel.
Yeah, there is no fucking way.
Yeah.
Especially since pay-per-views are typically Saturday, Sunday night. HBO is trying to build a set piece.
Yeah, that is usually when they do their stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting to put here. I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know if AEW would go for it. It depends on what their pay-per-view buy numbers end up being. But pay-per-view as a platform is struggling deeply. And I think a company would probably rather take a slightly lower payout that is the same every time than take potentially bigger payouts that could also be way less under certain circumstances, right? So it depends. It really depends. But pay-per-view is definitely not the way of the future for this business.
No, it's definitely, especially for
even
this
online
specifically.
pay-per-view just isn't. Like, they need to find a way to get into a subscription model of some kind.
Yeah, this is one area of the business where Vince has firmly planted himself that this is the way of the future. You need an app, a monthly subscription fee to get all, because that's what people want. That's the wave of the future for everything right now. If they're doing it on Fight, cool. If they're going to make their own app, which is pretty solidly going to happen, that needs to happen too. But
pay-per-view is going to be fine for a while.
Yeah, I mean, even ROH has moved to a subscription-based model.
Yeah, I'm fucking High Spots has moved to a subscription-based model,
Yeah.
dude. It's going to be okay for a little while, but there's going to come a time when it's going to be like, all right, I don't need to be paying $60 every couple of months for these fucking things.
Yeah. So one thing I did see on Reddit or Twitter is Kenny said I believe in an interview, is that hey, it was to the extent of basically, hey guys, keep in mind that this is a new company. We're going to be trying things. Some things are going to work, some things aren't going to work.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
It's
I think that was in reference to the FYREFEST stuff, but it's something that a lot of wrestling fans really do need to keep in mind, that this first year or so is really going to be, let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
This is a good thing to end on, because I think they obviously have the benefit of learning from mistakes, right? But in a lot of ways, it is first-generation tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like all the VR headsets that are coming out, right? People are like, oh, man, why aren't these games as good as the games on the new systems? It's like, yo, because there's a difference between 30 years of development and 7 years of development. You know what I mean? Like, this is we're back at the ground floor with this new product. And there are going to be things on this show that you hear Jonathan and I discuss where we go,
that's fucking dumb.
Didn't really do anything for me, you know? I don't think they executed this properly, or I don't think the idea behind this was very good. Trust me, we did it for all of Lucha Underground Season 4. Except for maybe like a couple of matches at the end.
Yes. It was just like 30 weeks of like, this is fucking dumb, man.
Oh, what are they doing? It was so good. But I think it's just important to keep in mind that like they're fucking trying to make something that people will love. And when there's this much money being thrown around, there are so many people in their ear telling them exactly what that's going to be, and they got no fucking idea, right? So I think if they stay true to each other and stay true to themselves, and they continue to make things that make them laugh, that make them excited, right? I mean, that's the fucking thing, man. Like, Like the South Park guys still in a fucking studio off in the middle of nowhere near LA, where their writer's room consists of them and their friends, and they write the episode based on their tastes, right? Like, as long as Cody and the Bucks can continue to do that, and surround themselves with business smart people that they like to work with, and they don't let the money get too involved with the creative vision of the product, I think they're going to be okay. But there are going to be times when we're just going to be like, this one didn't do anything for me. Probably fairly recently. I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least one match at Double or Nothing where we're like, it's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something we talked about in the All In episode, is that they took a lot of things that they did at All In the first time they'd ever done this before and learned from it. So you're going to see an improvement on Double or Nothing because it's like software development. The thing you do, especially this is the big thing right now, is you deliver the minimum viable product and then you iterate on it. So you give the basic features of whatever you're trying to do and you deliver that. And then the next one is you say like a shopping system. You give them a cart and a way to purchase things, and then the next one you give them a user profile, and then the next one you give them a way to buy 3 things instead of just one thing, and things like that. You just keep iterating on it until you have that sweet spot of, we've delivered the full product that we want to have, now we can just support it.
Right. Well, it's like they say in the game dev world, right? The second game is what you wanted the first game to be.
Unless you're Bethesda.
Right, and then every game is the same fucking game.
Same engine, let's reskin it.
I think we'll go out on that. YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, podcast services everywhere. Thank you so much for joining us. We've had just a blast creating this show, and we're going to have a blast creating this show in the future with all of you. You can join us, tinyurl.com/AEW pod. Or find us on Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite. As always, thank you so much for joining us, and go out there and change the world.